3-0. We're going to find out a lot about ourselves today. And the ball is loose. It is jarred free and scooped up by Edgerrin Cooper. He's got a caravan down the sideline. Scoop and score for the Aggies.
Packer fans, if you want to hear my breakdown of the Green Bay Packers 2024 NFL Draft, this is the video for you and football fans alike. You all can let me know what you think by the end in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe. But let's get into it here. Go Pack, go. Brian Gutekunst, I think, knocked this one out of the park. I'm going to give my letter grade here for the Packers draft. I give them an A-. I think they went out and they filled positional needs while also adding some very valuable depth, and in the process added more draft capital in this one. Gutekunst made a trade back in the second round and added 2 more picks to his day 3. He had 8 picks going into day 3, and I think he capitalized well. But to start it off with what he did in the first round, you can go ahead also and go watch my round 1 recap or round 1 breakdown of the first pick, the 25th overall pick that they made in the first round. You can go check that video out, but I'll briefly go into it here. Jordan Morgan out of Arizona. They got their offensive tackle who's versatile, was a team captain there, has a bit of injury history, rebounded from, I believe it was an Achilles in 2022. He rebounded really well last year and had a good 2023. And look, the Green Bay Packers lost Yost Nijman and John Runyon in free agency, and David Bakhtiari they let go, and they needed to fill offensive line positions and get depth there, and that's what they did. And Gutekunst said, you know, we'd love for our entire offensive line to be able to play all 5 spots, and here's a guy in Jordan Morgan that has the versatility to do so. And I'll get into the other offensive lineman picks that also were able to fit that versatility need. And in the second round, this was the big splash. This was probably my favorite pick. They traded back from 41 to 45 with the Saints, and they watched Cooper DeJean go off the board, a pick before them, to Philly. And the pick that they traded to the Saints, where the Saints took their 41st, the Saints took Kool-Aid McKinstry, 2 guys that I was very high on in this draft that I wanted Green Bay to go after. But hey, they traded back to 45, and they got 2 picks with it, a 5th and a 7th as well. And they were able to draft Edgerrin Cooper here out of Texas A&M on many draft boards, far and away the best linebacker available. He was real good consensus value as well, 90.8 overall grade according to PFF. This is a guy that brings speed to the table, elite speed. He's a hard hitter, and he's also pretty good in coverage, aka not Devondre Campbell. This is a guy that's going to slot in as a day 1 starter alongside Quay Walker, and I think he's going to be an impact player from day 1. Edgerrin Cooper was my favorite pick. Followed by, though, in the same round, safety out of Georgia, Javon Bullard, with the 58th pick in the second round. I love this pick. This guy was probably the top 2, if not the best, was the number 2 safety on the board for sure. 22 starts, 4 interceptions in those 22 starts, and this is a guy that can play free safety and he can play in the slot. He's versatile, adding to the mantra of the Packers, which is versatility. In the national title game in 2022, he had 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. He was the MVP of that game. Bullard and McKinney will be a problem. I love it. You already have Anthony Johnson Jr. in there, and the Packers didn't stop there with safety depth, which I'll get into right after I say who their 3rd round pick was. 88th overall, Marshawn Lloyd, running back at a USC. He spent 3 seasons with South Carolina and finished up his last season with USC, compiling 1,621 yards and 19 touchdowns over his 4 seasons. Last year, averaged 7.1 yards per carry. Daniel Jeremiah, draft expert, this was his number 1 running back, and he even went out and said, Marshawn Lloyd, he said, look, I'm the best running back in this class. So that's a lot of talk. Now I want to see the kid prove it. I think that he's going to be a great acquisition in that running back room, that can already consists of Josh Jacobs and A.J. Dillon. I like the pick. The Packers didn't stop there with getting linebacker depth, safety depth, running back depth, and offensive line depth. All things that they needed to do in this draft. In the 3rd round, they got Tyron Hopper, linebacker out of Missouri, a guy that played plenty of snaps on special teams, and he can be instrumental in special teams for Bisaccia. So it's a good pick for him there, and he's also brings depth at the linebacker position. Then they got in round 4 Evan Williams, a guy that they actually traded up for in the 4th round. This is a guy that can play both safety spots and nickel corner. Fresno State, he was a captain as well, I think, at Oregon State prior. Don't quote me on that. But the point is, he brings that character to the table and to the locker room, and more depth for the Packers. All the more merrier for their secondary. And they went out and they got Ketan Oladipo out of Oregon State in the 5th round. He can play deep or he can play in the box. Green Bay really stacked up on safety depth in this draft, and it's something that they certainly needed to address. The 5th round, they traded up to get center Jacob Monk, 3,600 starts at Duke, 5-year starter, and a guy that also can play right guard, right tackle, and center. He can be the back. He's probably going to be the backup center for Josh Myers. Really like the pick. Like what I read up on about the kid. Round 6, Travis Glover, offensive tackle out of Georgia State. And in the 7th round, this is where they really did well, according to the consensus board, in getting value for their picks. Quarterback Michael Pratt out of Tulane was still there. And a lot of people had him very high on their boards as going probably in the 3rd round or 4th round. And the Packers got this guy in the 7th round. And Kalen King, cornerback out of Penn State, another guy that is a draft steal in many people's boards, and a guy that can be a backup for Eric Stokes and Jair Alexander. Given the health of both of those guys, this guy could end up stepping up and be a starter at some point during the season. So overall, I really like this draft for the Packers. Like I said, they added some really good depth, and they added some day one starter caliber guys. This was a home run for Gutekunst and company. Really like it, and I'm really eager to see the youngest team in the league could potentially get even younger with this draft class going into the 2024 season. I am very excited. Kudos to the Packers front office.